All right, so we're gonna talk about microbiology. We're gonna talk about why we have to learn about microbes and what type of microbacteria there are. Okay, and the objective is we need to identify two different types of bacteria, right? There are two different types of bacteria. We're going to see what is the difference between the good and bad bacteria, how they grow, if they are contagious through the air or to the exposure to the blood or body fluids, and to understand the differences between virus and bacteria. We're also going to talk about the hepatitis, AIDS, different types of animal parasites, which is not bacteria. Those are more very small animals that can live in the bodies, and the immunity. So these are the key terms that we're going to talk about it. You can just take a look, but as we go along with the class, I will refer to each one of these terms. So there's a lot of new terms that probably you guys haven't heard about, and this is what we're going to talk about today. So what is microbiology? Microbiology is the science. It's a science like when you study history, when you study math, when you study the ecosystems. Microbiology is a study. It's a science that studies the living organisms on microbes. And why are they called microbes? Because they only can be seen through a microscope. They're so small that our bare eyes will not be able to see it. So we only can see it through a microscope. So we need a microscope in order to see microbes. And so these people who study microbes, they most likely are working in very, labs and with, with all this technology that allowed us to see very small, diminutive, or very small organisms, live organisms. Microbes, they're also alive, right? They live everywhere. Most of them are one cell, living, can be animals or plants, but they have kind of both characteristics, okay? So we have, for example, bacteria, viruses, fungus, algae, and protozoa. They have different shapes. They live in different areas. Some of them, they live on dry surfaces. Some other ones live on wet surfaces. But we need a very good magnifier tools to be able to see it. So we study also bacteriology. Bacteriology is only focusing on bacteria. Microbiology focuses on everything, okay? But bacteriology is only study of bacteria, okay? What is a bacteria? It's a one-cell microorganism. So this organism is only one cell. It's composed of one cell, but it has a life. It has the ability to reproduce, and it has the ability to acquire nourishment, but it's only one cell. They can live everywhere. They're also called germs or microbes. And we have two different types. We have the non-pathogenic and we have the pathogenic. What is the difference? Non-pathogenic means no, pathogenic means harm. So when we said non-pathogenic means non-harm, harmless, doesn't produce harm to our body, right? So they're not good, but they do not produce damage to our body. Pathogenic means harmful. Okay, they produce damage to your body, to your cells. Pathogenic means they can produce an infection, a disease. Okay, so pathogenic and non-pathogenic. In the pathogenic side, we have three different types of pathogenic bacteria. We have cocci, bacilli, Bacilli, Spirilla. All right, so we have cocci, bacilli, Spirilla. We have three different types of pathogenic bacteria. Remember, this will cause infections and diseases. So let's talk about cocci first. Cocci, just remember the coconut is round, all right? So the coconut is round, cocci is round, okay? And they come into different forms. Then they can come in a staphylococci, staph. When you see staph, you think about a group of people working for somebody, correct? So staph means a group. That means this bacteria is in little bunches, in little groups, like grapes. You know, when you have a little, you buy your grapes, it comes in little bunches, in little groups. So staphylococci will be bacteria, cocci bacteria that comes in groups. For example, when you have a pimple and you see all this infected, all that small area infected, that is cocci, and that is only in one small area. They can produce infections like when you cut yourself, or when you have a little pimple, or just a very small infection. And all these infections are local. That means only that specific area get infected. It doesn't go through all your body. Then we have the streptococci. The strep means chain. It's a big chain. Okay, like when you have the strep throat, right? We call it strep throat. Just remember that it's around your neck. It's like a chain that you have around your neck. So streptococci are cocci that they form a chain, and because they form a chain, they go deeper into your body, and usually they go through your neck, which is um, um, your throat, right? Because we have saliva, we breathe in, so they stuck right there. So when you have this mucosity, when you have a cold or a flu, is cocci that are just there, right? Then we have the diplococci when they go into pairs, right? So they go from groups to chains, now they go to pairs. And because they're lighter, they can be more volatile, which means as you breathe in, they can go deeper in your body, so they can go to your lungs, and that's what causes pneumonia. What is pneumonia? Is the accumulation of mucosity or liquid in your lungs. So when you have runny nose, you see all that liquid that you have when you have runny nose, but imagine that on your lungs. So that's why it's so strong, and it's so harmful to the body if this bacteria goes into your lungs. But the way it can go to your lungs is if they become on pairs, right? And your body cannot fight it, so then an infection happens. So that is the cocci. Then we have the bacilli. Bacilli are in the rod shape. Okay, they're a little longer. They're not round. They're like a little rod, like a little pencil long. And they can be in single or in chain together, but they will not produce a local infection. Cocci will produce local infection. Even pneumonia is still considered local because it only affects your lungs. But because we need oxygen, we can die out of it. And bacilli is different. Bacilli and Spirilla are much stronger because they grow something called flagella. You see these little tails right here? Those are called flagella. And as they grow the flagella, they use it like to whip themselves and push themselves, right? It's like a little fish. You know, they have the tails of the fish that it pushes the fish through the water. So same thing with this bacteria. Once it gets inside your body, it can move through your body fluids. Remember, we have 70 to 80% water in our body. So they can travel through our body fluids and affect different areas. Same thing with the spirilla. So these two are more of body fluid, yes, they're transmitted through body fluids. So these are more of a bloodborne infectious disease. So here it talks about how they move. Cocci doesn't move, it just flies through the air. Bacillia and Spirilla, they have, they can be anywhere, but once they get into your body, they can use a flagella or cilia, that's what it's called, flagella or cilia, so they can move through the liquids. So even water, let's say some water is contaminated with some type of bacilli, and you drink the water, it gets into your body, and then it goes and reproduces and causes different types of diseases. There are also mosquitoes. You know how the mosquitoes, they have different infections that they can transmit to humans because they live in the liquid. They grow in the water, but that water is contaminated with bacteria. So that is why some people got very sick with those mosquito bites. How does pathogenic bacteria grow and reproduce? They have different stages. We have the active, inactive, and spore forming stage. Active is when they get into your body, they get nourishment from your cells, right? Because they cannot produce their own food. They get food from your cells and they grow big and then they reproduce in mitosis. Remember, mitosis is when you have one cell. Uh-oh, I did something I'm not supposed to do. Okay, so mitosis is when you have one cell. Let me see. When you have one cell and it grows so big that it begins to get divided into two different ones. Okay, so that is called mitosis. I was trying to draw something, but it didn't let me. So it's okay. So it grows so big that it begins to divide it on two. And mitosis and this type of cell division growth, it also happens when a woman gets pregnant. And that's, I think, the most common thing that we can think about. You know, when a woman gets pregnant, what happens? There is only one cell and it divides on two. From two, it divides on four. From four, it divides on eight, and so forth. So cells begin to reproduce. So say the same thing over here with bacteria. So they divided, but they form another living organism. And from two, it becomes four, and so forth. But they need to have the right conditions. Some of the right conditions for the bacteria to grow is that it has to have nourishment, first of all, right? So it needs to have food. It needs to be a warm place. It needs to be humid. They need to have water, right? It needs to be dark. Is our body has nutrition things, right? Because we have cells alive. Our body has water, our body is dark, and our body is warm. So any living organism or any animal or human is a good place where bacteria can grow. Okay. Then we go to the inactive stage. Inactive means that the cells are not growing. The cells are in a stage that they're just passive. They're not growing, they're not reproducing, they're either calm or they die, either one. But into the inactive stage, that means that they're not in a good environment where they can reproduce, or how they preserve themselves, how they can live over years sometimes. So what they do is they form a spore. The spore is like a shell, like a cocoon that the bacteria forms so it can survive for long time. So the bacteria can be there for like days, years, and it can survive extreme temperatures. There's some types of bacteria that they can survive very cold weather or very hot weather. And when they form the spores, they're just dormant. They're not alive. They're waiting to be in the right place so they can break up that spore and begin to reproduce. Okay, so that is why bacteria is so important to be disinfecting our tables and everything, because we don't see the bacteria. The bacteria is not present, is not giving us no diseases or anything, but maybe it's dormant, maybe it's in a spore. Once the spore breaks, it began to produce, the infection. So infections into the body happens when the body cannot cope with the bacteria and the toxins that are produced through the bacteria. Um, you know, any animal, any living thing has waste. Bacteria produces waste as well. The waste that bacteria produces is what the body reacts to. How can I say this? If you have a cat that is peeing everywhere in your living room, you start to have a reaction, which means you get upset with the cat, right? So same thing over here. The bacteria itself may not be as dangerous. What is dangerous is the toxins that it produces, because once it gets the nourishment, it produces toxins to our body, so our body reacts. How does our body react? Well, it can be in different ways. Maybe swellingness, redness, pain, um, excess of fluids on that specific area. So there are many different ways the body can react. There is no disease without pathogenic bacteria, okay? So if it's an infection disease, it has most likely a pathogenic bacteria. If it's a organ disease, something that is not functioning well in your body, like if I have heart problems and I have a heart attack, that's not because of pathogenic bacteria, that's because my organ is not working well. If I have a stomach flu, for an example, my stomach is working good, but it's reacting to bacteria that is inside the stomach, okay? So those are kind of two different things. Also, pus is a sign of infection, right? There are different type of infections that they can produce some type of pus. When you have the pink eye, you see all this, liquidy and gummy stuff around your eye that cannot let you open. So that's kind of pus. So that's a bacteria. Most of the bacteria have different infections, like local and general, right? Like I was saying before. Local infection is only one area. General infection means the whole body. And it goes through the whole body because it goes through your bloodstream or your lymph, okay? Can this be contagious? Yes. Or communicable? Yes. Can be spread from one person to the next one? Yes. But some of these are spread through air, like you don't need to be too close to me so you can get sick. For example, now COVID-19. We need to be far apart because my body, if my body has that virus and I breathe hard, the air is flowing, right? So if you do not have good defense or you are very close to me, most likely that bacteria is still alive and it's gonna get to you and you're gonna acquire. So that's why they asking for 6 feet apart. And people do not understand. They thinking that, oh, but I'm not sick. But you don't know if you carry that and you just don't show symptoms. It's like the flu. How many people get very sick with the flu? How many people, it just got like a little fever? But it's the same virus. It just affects everybody differently. So communicable means that the disease can spread from one person to another one. Epidemic is a large number of people affected in a location. Okay, so now we have that with a COVID-19. I think it's going a little lower, but we still need to have a lot of precautions ourselves. Bloodborne pathogens, those are different. Those are only through body fluids. We call it bloodborne because that's the name, but it can be any body fluid. My sweat is a body fluid, right? My saliva is a body fluid. So there's some other type of pathogens that they can only be transmitted if you have direct contact. Okay, so if I have a direct contact with that person's body fluids, then the pathogens get to my body. They can be transmitted to blood, blood to blood, body fluids to blood, direct contact to unclean tools. Let's say, you know, toilets, public toilets, you have to be very careful because people have body fluids, and sometimes they get left right there in the toilets, and they don't clean it often, or and you know, it can happen. So you have to be very careful whenever you go to a public place and you're using public toilets. Pathogen transmission, they can enter into your body through different areas. A broken skin, right? So if I have a cut or you know, I open wound in my skin, bacteria can go through my mouth, right? If I open my mouth, or if I eat something that is contaminated or drink something, that pathogen can get to my body. Through my nose, when I breathe the air, if the air that I'm breathing has a lot of pathogens that my body cannot fight, they can get into my body. The ears, also, a lot of people, right now they're protecting their face, their eyes, but they forgot that we have the ears, and ears go directly to your inside body as well. Your eyes and unprotected sex, okay? So we have to be aware of these different ways the pathogen can get transmitted to the body. How do you fight that disease or that infection away? Well, your body already has some type of defenses. For example, you want to make sure you do not have broken skin, and if you have a little broken skin or injury, you want to put something to cover it, right? Like, let's say I cut my finger, I put a band-aid and I wear my gloves, so no bacteria can get into my open wound. Body secretions, many of our secretions, like the sebum, it is also a protection. It creates a layer of protection to my skin, so it won't, the bacteria won't penetrate. White blood cells, we all have white cells into our blood, and those will fight against bacteria and viruses that can get into our body. And also antitoxins, we also produce those are natural. Now, depends, because some people has enough, some people has too little, or maybe you can overproduce antitoxins, and that creates a kind of allergy reaction. When your body is into that stage of saying, you know, this is dangerous for me, so I'm gonna produce more antitoxins. So then the more you produce, but you don't have the actual disease that's strong, then your body becomes to react as an allergy. Many of the allergies we have is a hyper reaction of our body, and it begins to produce many antitoxins when there's not need for it. And that's where the reaction as allergy starts to come up. Okay, so we go next. Sepsis is a poisonous, what is sepsis? Sepsis and asepsis. Sepsis means something is contaminated, okay? Sepsis is dirty. So it has bacteria or it has viruses, it's dirty, it's full of bacteria. Asepsis, with the A in the beginning, means absence or there's no sepsis. So that means it's free of bacteria, means it's clean, it has no germs. All right, then we have the symptoms and signs of a disease. What is a subjective symptom? An objective symptom. Objective, remember the O like an eye. Objective is the eye, something you can see right away, right? Swellingness, redness, pus, a different color, blood. You can see blood right away, right? So all those are objective symptoms. If I see you sneezing, that's objective. If I see you coughing, that's objective symptom, right? Subjective is the senses. Remember the S for senses. Subjective, something that you can only sense. You cannot see it, you only sense. Pain. I cannot see nobody's pain. They can feel it and they can tell me how much from 1 to 10 is the pain, but I don't see it. Burning sensation. I don't see the burning sensation, but the person feel it, right? Itchiness. When you're very itchy, you only feel it, but you don't see it. What you see is the scratches after you scratch yourself and it becomes red. But that's a reaction towards the itchiness. So that's about bacteria. We're gonna talk a little more about virus. So what's the difference between a virus and a bacteria? The bacteria is a one-cell organism that comes to your body and lives there, right? But it doesn't change your cells. It doesn't become part of your cells. It just gets there. Get your nourishment, yes. It produces toxins to your body, yes, but it's just there. It doesn't change no composition of your body. Viruses, on the other hand, they're much smaller than bacteria, and they can also get into bacteria and destroy bacteria as well, or get bacteria sick. Viruses are much smaller parts of microorganisms that they get into your cells. So the bacteria is like your neighbor, just live over here next to me, right? And I carry them, okay. Viruses is not your neighbor. Viruses is the neighbor that comes to live inside your house and now takes over your house, okay? So viruses get into your cells and begin to change your cell composition, that your cell becomes their cell. I don't know if I explained myself, but I guess I did. So, and it can get into plants, animals, humans, even bacteria. So viruses are much stronger because once they get into your body, they become part of your cells. So now you have that virus within yourself. You carry a virus. Vaccinations are available sometimes, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. The problem with the vaccination is the vaccine, what they do, they inject into your bloodstream either same bacteria and virus, same type of virus in a very small dose, or viruses that are already dead. But what they're putting in your body in any vaccination is the virus. So what's going to happen, your body will react, right? A little bit, but it will get used to it. The virus will become part of you. And then whenever you get to another person that has or the virus, it will not affect you because you're already, oh, I'm part of the team, so I will not get sick, correct? So that is the vaccines. The problem with the vaccines is that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work because the reaction of every person is different. So when the vaccines are not working for that person, instead of make them create immunity to that virus, it actually creates a disease, and they can actually get that disease. And that's the problems with the vaccines. It's a risk to take, I would say. And I know it is the schools, they in the health department, they ask you to get vaccination for all your kids. And it's requirements so they can go to school and all this. But I'm just telling you what it is, the reaction that also can happen. It's a very, very minimum amount of people who can get that reaction, but it still could happen. The hepatitis, what is the hepatitis? Hepatitis is a blood-borne virus which is cause liver inflammation, right? So the hepatitis goes into your blood, but it damages your liver. And if your liver is damaged, you will not be able to clean your blood, because what the liver does, the liver cleans all the residues of fat and toxins from your body. So if the liver is swollen, it won't work. And if you have all those toxins in your body, most likely, I don't know how long the person can survive without a liver. I don't think they will survive too long because your body will get intoxicated itself. All right. So we need to take care of the liver. Hepatitis damages the liver. And once the liver is damaged, you know, to get it healthy back, it will be very, very hard. This can be transmitted to blood products, sexual contact, parental contact, or unsanitary conditions. Like that's what I'm saying. When you go to a public place, even though it looks very nice and fancy and they charge you $100 a plate, be very careful on public toilets because people gets there. So be careful. There are also blood products. Hepatitis can be transmitted to something that had blood. And in many cases, we do certain services like shaving where you can cut somebody's skin. And if you do not disinfect that blade or that razor, you can transmit a disease from one person to the next one. So this is present in all body fluids and it spreads much easier than HIV. So hepatitis is something that can be spread from one person to another one, and also in the saliva, right? So if you share cups or spoons with somebody who has hepatitis without washing it properly and disinfected, it can be given to yourselves, or you can give to another person. So we have different types of flu, right? Or hepatitis? No, this is hepatitis. We have hepatitis A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. So A, it will give you symptoms like a flu. So, but there is a vaccine. B is a little stronger, right, than A. And also it will be like a very heavy flu, but you don't know what it is. C has no vaccine and is already damaging your liver. D and E, those are very uncommon. There's no vaccines available, but they would really, there is no, I would say no cure available in the long term. Maybe they had to give you medicine that is super strong that it may destroy the hepatitis, but it also can destroy other organs inside your body. So we just have to be very careful what we do, especially as a hairstylist and barbers. You need to have the disinfectant that destroys the hepatitis virus because it's very contagious. Not only through the blood, but through the body fluids. We sweat, we have saliva. When you shave, when you do the facials, people sweat through their face. So you have to be careful. We have also HIV, which is a virus that causes your immune system to slow down or malfunction. And this will produce a disease called AIDS, which is the acronym for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And you guys know about AIDS, right? Your immune system, it gets uh, damage, and then any other type of virus or disease that comes to your body, because your body immunity is so low, it can damage yourself. We also have the STDs. These are sexually transmitted diseases. So we have very minimum of that, but if somebody has herpes into their eyes or their mouth, you know, um, you don't want to do the facial. You don't want to do a shave because that could be an STD that is being transferred to other parts of their body. So you're gonna avoid to give this person's a service in that area. Okay, HIV is passed from one person to another one through the body fluids like the blood, the breast milk, semen, and vaginal secretions. HIV is not spread through casual contacts. Don't understand that, but I guess by shaking hands, right, giving a hug, you're not gonna get AIDS. Has to be more um, close contact. Okay, when you share needles, transfuse of blood, or when women gives a baby or gives birth a baby or milk a baby, those type of viruses can be transmitted to the baby as well. How long it will take for HIV perhaps to show symptoms? It can take up to 10 years, right? 11 years without symptoms. And then suddenly people start to feel the symptoms. They never took a test before until they feel the symptoms. But through all those years, what happened in their lives? Had they had one person that they been having relations with, or they been having it with so many? I don't know. So it is very crucial that we all take a HIV test often for our own good. Remember, especially barbers, sometimes you can cut yourself, and by an accident, you never know what could happen. It's nothing that you had done wrong. Accidents can happen. So you have to be very careful about it. So the HIV uses the reproductive process as a host cell to duplicate itself. Like I said, any type of virus gets into your cells and duplicate, or they do mitosis through fusion, right? But they're using your own cells. You have to be tested if you want to, right? The immune system works to defend the body against infection. And this is very important because we need a very high immune system, a very strong immune system in order to fight diseases and infections. So this is the cycle of the HIV. It's kind of, I don't know if you see it. It's on your textbooks for the barbers. It takes way long. And it talks about different stages. It talks about stage 1, 2, and 3. Stage 1, it has no physical symptoms, and we just learned that we can survive or be alive with this for up to 11 years. Stage 2 is more complex. Is when you start to feel tired, you lose weight, you have fevers, and little more symptoms that you don't know where they're coming from. Maybe it feels like a flu or a cold, but you don't know what it is exactly. Stage 3, and those are more strong symptoms, right? And then you start to have like a pus in different areas or very deep rashes around your skin. You see that your organs are not working properly, like truly something is wrong. And in many cases, people never get tested until they are on stage 3. And that's way too late, because even if they could take some kind of antibiotics or medicines to delay the effects or the symptoms, once the symptoms are too high, there's no way to take it away. They're just there. So, but we can prevent ourselves from acquire HIV by avoiding risky behaviors, avoiding contact with another body fluids, practice precautions of infection control, especially in the barber shop, practice safety precautions, and have an HIV antibody test performed. We need to be educated into this, because a lot of people is getting not to know about HIV. I think HIV comes in the 80s, and it was a big deal. It was like right now the COVID-19. It was pretty much the same. A lot of people was talking about it. Everybody was scared, and people was afraid of touching somebody with AIDS. They were like, "Oh my God, it's gonna get me sick." No, it was just lack of knowledge. Now, then, all the I would said there was a lot of education given about AIDS back then. Then on the 2000s, it seems like everybody begins to forget about it. And now kids who are probably teenagers, they don't know what it is, or they may just heard about it, but they do not really pay that much attention as we used to back then. And it's important for new generations to understand the problems with it, because if they don't, if we don't give proper education to people, this can come back in the same form, where a lot of people can get infected of AIDS, because it hasn't gone. It's not gone nowhere. It's just that people used to take care more of themselves. So you as a barber and as a cosmetologist, you also, your duty is to inform your clients of many different conditions or safety measurements that they can take as a client to avoid infections and diseases. Helpful reminders, right? Avoid accidents, practice safety precautions, wash your hands all the time, disinfect tools all the time before and after. Treat your cuts immediately. So if somebody cuts themselves, don't let it be there. Just wash your hands, apply antiseptic, cover the area. Use a Band-Aid and put in a glove. Avoid contact with another body fluids. Attend HIV classes, get tested, and be responsible. We have to be very responsible, because we work with public. You work with different people. You're gonna touch their head. You don't know where they were sleeping last night, if they wash their sheets every week or every year, and you're gonna touch their hair. You don't know if they use the good shampoo or they just wash their hair because they come to you. So there you have to be very responsible. That's why it's so important to always wash your client's hair before you touch them, before you do the service. A lot of times they go like, "No, I don't want a shampoo, I just want the haircut." Do you know when they wash their hair the last? Are they sweaty? Do they have sweat on their hair? And then you have a cut right here on your finger from the last client, and it's open, but they're sweating, and you touch it. Guess what? That body fluid can get into your hand. So you have to be careful. Plant or animal organisms. What are parasites? Okay, next one. Parasites. A parasite is an animal organism that it lives off another organism. And those can be plants or animals. Plants can be like fungus, mold, yeast, right? Ringworm. Animal parasites can be like scabies and pediculosis. What is pediculosis? Lice, okay? Or itch mite. Scabies is the itch mite, the bed mite. Those can be living from your organism. Those are little different. Those are the scabies. Those are what scabies will look like in yourself. It will look like you have an ingrown hair or like a little infection in that area, but it's swollen. It never goes away. It's itchy and it's there. They have like a little bumps, okay? You need to go to a doctor so they can give you medicine, intaking medicine, so it can kill the scabies. There's no outside source of medicine. Pediculosis, those are little animals that live on your hairy areas, which is, you know, your head most likely. But other hair areas on your body, they can live in, okay? So you can have pubic pediculosis. And those are animals that they kind of bite you and take your blood away, but they can survive. Those are very contagious as well. And there is topic solutions that you can use. They can be buy over the counter in any pharmacy or drugstore, and you apply it on the scalp and it destroys the lice and the eggs as well. Whew. Can you do services if they have any of those? No, you cannot do services to these clients. You have to send them back home to either go to the doctor or go get a treatment if they have lice. Immunity. What is immunity is the ability of the body to fight diseases and bacteria, okay? So we all have immunity, but different levels of immunity. Remember, the younger we are, our immune system is better. The older we get, our immune system kind of slows down. It also has to do not only with age, but it has to do with nutrition and healthy habits. If I work out, because I don't, I have to, if I work out, my body is gonna be healthier. So it's gonna have better immunity. If I eat healthy, also my body is gonna be stronger. So my immunity is gonna be stronger than if I eat only junk food. So for example, a 25-year-old boy who do not exercises and eats junk food maybe have lower immunity than a 50-year-old man who works out and eats healthy. So the age has nothing to do, is the healthy habits. Obviously, if both work out, if both have healthy lifestyles, the younger guy is gonna be much stronger immunity than the older guy, okay? So immunity is, it is based in your age and your healthy habits, lifestyle, okay? So we have two different types of immunity. We have natural immunity, which is natural from your body, like all those things affect your immunity, like the ones I just named. And those immunity can be inherited, right? Some people is immune to many different diseases. They do not need the vaccines because they already have immunity. But who knows who, because there's no testing for that. And the acquired immunity is immunity that is given to people through vaccinations, okay? So acquired immunity can be given to you through vaccinations. Another name for vaccinations is inoculations. So you see right here the word inoculation, that is vaccination. You also can acquire immunity to a disease once you had the disease. Like, how many of you guys had chickenpox when you were kids, right? So once you overcome the chickenpox, you won't get it no more because you already had it. So your body developed immunity towards the chickenpox. So same over here. And there's people who are human disease carriers. It's a person that is immune to the disease. It doesn't have no symptoms, but it carries the disease and can get transferred to somebody else. That is a human disease carrier. And that is why it's so important right now. to wear the mask, not to protect us, because the mask is not gonna protect us as much. What it's gonna do is protect the other ones, because when you're talking, when you're coughing, you're sneezing, you're not throwing your germs through the air, so no one will get it, okay? Methods of destroying the bacteria, we can use disinfectants, heat, and ultraviolet rays or light. We need to read instructions. Disinfectants, the tool to be disinfected, it has to be within the contact of the disinfectant for at least 10 minutes. So it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to destroy bacteria with a liquid disinfectant. With the intense heat, boiling, steaming, baking, or burning, it may take different times depending of the tool that you're using or device. If I'm boiling water, it may destroy some bacteria, but not everything. It will not destroy spores. And I had to keep it boiling for at least 10 minutes as well, right? The ultraviolet light. I know that a lot of people's buying those lights right now in restaurants and different places. I think they bought it for schools too. And that's very nice. But they need to be in contact with that surface for 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. So when they have those lights and they just pass it through like super fast, you know, I seen it and even in the videos on the TV. Oh yes, we have the lights and they just pass it through. That doesn't work because you need to have a contact of 2 minutes. So it's no good. It's better to use a liquid disinfectant. It's just an idea that they're selling you, but it's not the actual thing because you need to be there 2 minutes. So what we learned today, we discussed about pathogenics and non-pathogenic bacteria. We describe the growth of bacteria. We also talk about local and general infection, blood-borne disease, sepsis, asepsis, and symptoms. We talk about viral infections, hepatitis, HIV, animal parasites, immunity, right? Some reminders on sanitation, and basic forms of destroying bacteria. And that's about it for today. Okay, let me see.